I'm still with Bros legend, Las Vegas legend. Just told me he's making a new movie, starting a travel company. You name it, he does it. A real privilege to have in the studio Matt Goss, one half of the Goss brothers, one half of Bros. He's come a long way since then. James credited you and Luke with helping him through his battle with cancer. I mean, for a lot of us, I tell you, I could sort of say that cliche, oh, it was so hard to see the guy decline, it was so hard to see him wage that battle. But do you know what? The only time he ever talked about it was when he was on air. Yeah. And that's because I think he thought it helped people. Yeah. And I think he also thought it was pretty good content, you know what I mean? It was good stuff to listen to and to watch. But off screen, out of the studio, he never talked about it. He just wasn't bothered. His producer Chuck, who you know, told me, he just said James Whale's the bravest man I ever met, and he suffered his cancer with great courage, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that he would come on and normalise his experience, and that's hard to do, you know, when you're going through your own turmoil and you've got, you know, Nadine to think of and the people around him that love him to think of. He did try to normalise it and make it something that was more, you know, the subject more approachable. I lost my mum, so that word it sends certain feelings into me, and it's a tough one. But he didn't normalise it and just make it a subject that people could feel much more comfortable around him talking about it. But as you say, when he wasn't on the radio, he, you know, he just wanted to know what was going on, and you just felt like James was going to just keep going and going and going and going.
Yeah.
That's why it's a bit of a shock this morning. It was.
It is. It's surprising. We've all been expecting it, but when it happened, it's a shock. I think it's always the way. We're waiting to talk to. We will in a second bring in Ricky Freelove, is his old producer. He's going to come on down the line. But just before we get Ricky in, how did you first meet James then?
James had a couple of strange versions of it, but I just remember him doing his. We did some kind of thing for his show. And then after the show, we exchanged numbers, and we literally just became mates. You know, we'd go down. We'd have me and my partner Chantal and Nadine and James would go to get his favourite local Italian. You know, he loved his food. Yeah. He loved the stories. And as you say, James really loved being famous. He's like he loved the whole thing, and that's what was really good to be around him, because it wasn't something. He wasn't a moany guy, you know. It was fun to be around.
He sort of lived his job, or lived his career. He came alive in the studio. Well, let's bring in his former producer. Now he's the lofty content editor of Talk here at the station. Welcome to Ricky Freelove. Ricky, your thoughts now that the great man has left us?
It's a really sad day, Kevin, and you know, I think all of us here at Talk have been expecting it for such a long time. It's odd that, you know, it's now actually happened. And look, it can't really be overstated. What a legend he was. We were working with a legend every single day. He was a pioneer of the genre of speech radio in the UK, and you know what he's brought to an entire industry is remarkable. And I think, you know, he's shaped, obviously, my career and what I'm doing now from listening to him and the work that he's done, but the entire media landscape. You know, he's literally single-handedly brought that, particularly to the UK, and made it what we are today. And we have a radio station, and TV station, and YouTube channel based around, you know, some of the work that he did. Yeah,
and as his producer, I mean, let's call it like it is. He could be quite irritating, couldn't he, to work for? He would suddenly decide 3 minutes before the show, get me the Prime Minister, I need to talk to Starmer, I want him on within 5 minutes, that kind of thing. That was James Whale all over, wasn't it?
All over. He was a very mischievous character to produce, and the relationship between a presenter and producer is very, very intimate. You get to know them extraordinarily well. I produced James when his first wife, Melinda, was going through her cancer journey, and he would call me up every day with updates. So I feel like I've sort of already done this once with James, and it's very, very sad to do it a second time. But as you said, he was such a rascal to produce that I'd spend my entire day obviously booking a running order, thinking I've got a great show. We'd come to the item, and the guest would be there ready to go And he declared, well, my producer thinks we're going to talk about this now. We're not. I don't want to do it. Oh, right, okay. So, you know, sort of the aftercare, I think we call it now, wasn't quite the same standard at the time, but we'd get into all sorts of awful scenarios where I'd beg and plead people to come on, and James is a different man now. He won't throw you off air. I once had an expert in some field who was the voice on a certain topic. He was out for dinner and he said, look, I'll step out of the restaurant and I'll do 5 minutes with you over the phone. So I was like, thank you so much. That's brilliant. As soon as he comes on air, I think James said he was something like ridiculously stupid and hung up on him. And, you know, you just have to say to this bloke on the phone, like, I'm so sorry, I did not know that was going to happen. But look, he was famous for it and he was really good at it, you know, hanging up on people mid-air or you know, shook them out the studio. It would happen on almost a weekly basis. And you just have to speak to this person to come out the studio. Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah, we all saw it. But look, just before you go, Ricky, I've been stressing that James loved to project the image of being a real tough guy, the tough guy of broadcasting. But away from that image, the truth was he was actually a very nice guy. And that was kind of proved. Matt's here with me. You remember, Matt, when he celebrated his MBE. And that was at the Langer's restaurant in central London. There were about 200 people. It was a who's who of London. And anyone who thought that this was a nasty guy, I mean, how come 200 close friends turned up? It was true, wasn't it? I mean, it was a real proof of his popularity.
Yeah, he was just one of those guys that I think most of us would just do anything for him, and he didn't ask for anything. James didn't ask for anything. Yeah, and I've had a few of those famous producer calls as well. So,
well, the only problem that came with that though, Kev, was you know, he'd suddenly remember one day that he was best friends with somebody. he once he'd call me, and literally be at any hour of the day he'd call to come up with some great idea he wants in the show. And one day he just went, you know, who's the front man for AC/DC? Brian Johnson. It's like, yes, I know him, he's my friend, get him on the show tonight. It's like, right, I've just got to somehow find the lead singer of AC/DC and get him on the show tonight. It's like that sort of caliber. He really was friends with the stars, and they really do turn out for him as well.
Exactly right. A great man will be sorely missed. Ricky, thanks very much for coming on. We'll see you tomorrow. That's Ricky Freelove, James Wales' ex-producer. But yeah, he could be really annoying, James, I'll tell you.
I'm sure as a colleague you know him better than we do, but no, I just want to say that, also to Nadine, like she's said today's happiest years of her life, and and just that is the measure of the man. Like, he adored her, and that was plainly obvious when we spent time with him recently. And
he was very in his final weeks, even the last week, very humble, I thought. He was very grateful for being in the hospice, saying, I'm lucky to be here, this is where I want to go.
And before he went, he was trying to get more energy, more money, and more focus on them from the NHS as well. Like, it's the right thing to do, but I'm not surprised he did that.
Yeah, indeed. Well, listen, what would be your abiding memory of James?
I think that he's authentic. He was a master of his craft and governed by his heart.
You're right. But it's that voice, wasn't it? That voice. That was.
You actually don't do a bad impression of him.
It's God's gift. Ricky was just mentioning that was his favourite put down. That's the most ridiculously stupid thing I've ever heard. Ridiculously stupid. But he wasn't a ridiculously stupid man. He was an amazing broadcaster, amazing man, very nice man. And it's great to have his great friend Matt Goss here in the studio to pay tribute to him.